Good morning, Chair Vollendorf, member Holmes, staff, and guests. The lobbies are open and the recording has begun.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Gretchen. I will now convene the Board Caucus meeting for Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. Board member Garrett will not be with us as she's on leave today. So we will jump right into our agenda. We have one agenda item this morning, which is Dr. Jason Kilmer from the University of Washington joining us for our annual update, our semi-annual update on the Washington Young Adult Health Survey. And normally, Kristen Haley, who is our public health liaison, would introduce Dr. Kilmer, but Kristen is not here today. She's got other duties, so I'm going to get the pleasure of doing a quick introduction to Dr. Kilmer. Jason and I have worked together for a while through my various roles at both King County and the University of Washington, and we're lucky to have him join us here at our Board Caucus meeting. So whether it's joining us here at a Board Caucus meeting, a board meeting, or training our staff in the Education and Enforcement Division, Jason's always been a great resource to the LCB. Dr. Kilmer is a professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at the University of Washington, and he's here today to present on the 12th year of data collection for the Young Adult Health Survey, which is funded by our partners at the Washington State Healthcare Authority. Dr. Kilmer has joined us to share these results over the years, and it is always helpful to understand the current use and behaviors related to substance uses that we regulate here at the LCB. So with that, Dr. Kilmer, I will turn it over to you and look forward to hearing your presentation this morning.
Thank you. What a nice introduction. I appreciate it, and I appreciate people's time today and the opportunity to work with you all today. As I told Jim when I came on, there's only 3.5 weeks left in the school year. Hooray! So we're all kind of limping toward the finish line, but really excited for summer to finally arrive. I can't not smile when someone says 12 years of data, because that's not in academia and research. If you're lucky and you get a federally funded grant, it usually funds 5 years. And if you're truly lucky, you get a 6-year no-cost extension. I have a couple colleagues who have been lucky enough to have grants renewed where they've been able to collect data for 10 years. The fact we've been able to move into 12-year territory is remarkable to me. I just feel really, really lucky that we get to do this. And I will dive right into this so we have time for discussion. Are you seeing my slides advance? I feel like I should. Good, great.
Yep, we're good.
I'm so much more familiar with Zoom than Teams, so big thanks to the team at the Division of Behavioral Health and Recovery Healthcare Authority. Sarah Mariani's been really a champion for this since the start. And then our colleagues Casey Cates, Rachel Oliver, and Megan Stowe. Also, thanks to Kristen, Gretchen, Chair Vollendorf for their role in today's presentation. And truthfully, thanks to all of you for your interest in this topic as well. This is a project that launched in 2014. We collected as much data as we could before the first retail stores opened in July 2014. And we've partnered with the Division of Behavioral Health and Recovery. We have a small but mighty team at the University of Washington where from the start, very deliberately, this has been recruited through a combination of recruitment methods. We had debated at one point if we should do a random sample to young adults in Washington based on driver license data. We realized that eliminated people without a driver's license. It missed people with less stable housing situations. And there was some really exciting work being done by Dr. Deb Kaysen, who's now at Stanford University, where she was using people's social media profiles to make sure that only if they fell into certain categories, age, geographic region, and so on, did they see an ad. So we've done a combination of direct mail advertising to a random sample of 18 to 25-year-olds using information from the Department of Licensing that we worked to get to permission to access, as well as online advertising. Social media has, of course, evolved, as have the ads. So we've used over the years Facebook, Craigslist, Instagram, and so on. We've assessed what our recruitment looks like as we go to see, are there groups that are being underrepresented, and do we need to turn the dial up on different regions, categories, you name it. So it is a convenient sample, not a random sample, but we've always seen that as a strength. Additionally, working with colleagues when we presented years ago to the State Epidemiological Outcomes Work Group, we were hearing from our colleagues at the Department of Health that if we used census data to improve generalizability by applied pro-stratification weights, using sex, race, and geographic region, we might even have greater faith in the meaningfulness of our data. I'm always delighted to say the weighted results consistently are very similar to the non-weighted results. So what I'll be showing you today are the data across 12 cohorts, because every year we collect data from a new cohort of 18 to 25-year-olds. Amazing that we have 21,494 unique individuals. And in addition to a brand new cohort every year, we've been able to follow up with certain cohorts, depending on our funding situation, over time as well. The people we met in 2014 is 18 to 25-year-olds. We followed up with them for not only their baseline year, but an 11-time follow-up. And so the people we met as 18 to 25-year-olds in 2014 were largely 29 to 36 when we followed up with them. And this year, we were also able to follow up with cohort 2, 6, and 11. Jim, I see your hands up. Go right ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Kilmer, I just wanted to interrupt quickly and ask if you want questions from either board member Holmes and myself during your presentation, or would you prefer that we hold them until the end?
If there's anything clarifying, I invite anyone to ask a clarifying question as we go. That way, I'll feel badly if you say, can you go back to slide 10 if I'm at the end? And then I'll obviously built in time for conversation as well.
I do have just then a quick clarifying question going back to the last slide, and just wondering about the number of participants in the 2025 cohort, looking like it's much lower, and just wondering what that lower number represents, if anything.
We didn't get every year we've opened up data collection in July with funding challenges. We did not get the green light to open up recruitment until September. So we had a much shorter recruitment window. We debated, do we expand recruitment into another calendar year? And we felt like that was a risky thing to do, since all of the data collected in each year literally fell in that calendar year. And so it was a shorter time frame, but it also, I again, wound up, I feel like I should knock on wood, wound up still being a group that was diverse, that when we weighted it, the weighted results matched the unweighted, and so that was all really good.
Okay, great. And just one other quick thing I should have mentioned in the introduction, and that is that since board member Holmes is new to this data set and this presentation, anything you can do just to elaborate, or as you're doing your presentation, to help bring him on board with why we do this. Thinking about, I know there's a healthy youth survey. Why do we do a healthy youth survey versus and a healthy young adult survey? What's the difference between the two? Again, just as you were talking, I was thinking, oh, I bet board member Holmes doesn't know, et cetera, et cetera. So just keep that in mind as you're presenting this morning.
Absolutely. I mean, the Cliff Notes answer to that. Cliff was my favorite author when I was in college, so shout out to Cliff. The Cliff Notes answer is, as you know, we had the Healthy Youth Survey for 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th graders. We had Burfus and other national samples for 18 and up in general. But the National Survey on Drug Use and Health was showing that 18 to 25-year-olds were the group that disproportionately were reporting past year cannabis use. That if you looked at the SAMHSA categories of 12 to 17-year-olds, 18 to 25-year-olds, and people 26 and older, rates really were higher for 18 to 25-year-olds. We realized that there was this opportunity afforded by collecting brand new snapshots in time, as well as following people over time, because we could see what happened as people transitioned into an age in which they could legally obtain cannabis through retail outlets. But it also allowed us to really look at a split of those with legal access, the 21 to 25-year-olds, and those without, the 18 to 20-year-olds. So that was 2 sentences longer than Cliff would have done, but I still tried. So just to show you, I mean, there's a lot here. I will send the PDF of all of this so you have it. Most survey research tends to have more people, more females participate than males. That wound up being the case yet again for us, but we again are able to weight the data and find that the weighted results align with our unweighted results. We had, we very intentionally did what we could, because every year we hear people say it'd be great if you could even boost the diversity of the sample. Again, using what we do with social media to make sure that in people's profiles, underrepresented groups were more likely to start to see the ads. This was the first year that just under half identified as Caucasian, white, non-Hispanic. We had about a quarter identify as Hispanic, any race. You can see the other breakdown based on race and ethnicity. We also use DSHS region in Washington. So we look at Eastern Washington. We look at two parts of Western Washington as defined by DSHS, King County and North, and then Pierce County and South. So what do we see with 12 years of data? I'll walk you through this as smoothly as I can. So again, we have time for a discussion, but you're going to see really expanding tables on what I've shown you in past years, because with, I don't know what we're going to do with the 13th cohort in terms of making it fit on the screen, but this is any past year non-medical cannabis use. What we do, if I walk you through the rows, here's 18 to 20-year-olds, here's 21 to 25-year-olds, and then in columns are each of the cohorts. We first run the analyses to see, compared to cohort 1, which cohorts are significantly higher or lower than other cohorts. And what you can see is cohorts 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are statistically higher than cohort 1. Newly the case, every single year I've presented to you, I have said that in the overall category of 18 to 25-year-olds, any past year use is going up. Highlighted in magenta, that is newly the case, there is no longer a significant trend. What does that mean? I'll show you graphically in a bit. The age by cohort interaction is significant, reflecting the differences that we see in stratified models. What are the stratified models? When we split the model by those 18, 19, and 20, and those 21 to 25, we see a significant decreasing trend among the 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. We see a significant increasing trend among the 21 to 25-year-olds. If you plot this, these two age groups could not have been more identical prior to retail stores opening. But what you notice is that the orange line, there's a statistically significant linear trend. In general, it's going up for the 21 to 25-year-olds. There's a statistically significant decreasing trend in blue. It's going down for the 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. And I put special effects right there to show you this actually ended a 5-year stretch in which past year use was over 50% among the 21 to 25-year-olds. And so, you know,
Board Member Holmes has, I think, a quick question. Jason?
Go right ahead.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Very quickly, Doctor, if you could explain as you go along where, if anywhere, the change in sampling methods over the last 12 years might have affected some of the responses.
We always try and be mindful of that. And more than anything, we ask about past year use, at least monthly, at least weekly, and even daily. So we try and account for time frames so that the month in which people respond tends to either encompass the same high-risk window. So for example, there's published data that show that April 20th, 420, tends to be a date in which more people report use and even more sessions of use. Every single person past year encompassed that, but there was no one for whom past 30 days encompassed that, for example. So we try and be very, very mindful of timing of year, just to make sure that all of that can be accounted for. So we don't tend to see, fortunately, differences in that assessment window. So the big takeaway is every single year we have been saying that among the young adult category of 18 to 25-year-olds, in general, it's been going up. About year 6, we were clarifying that while it's going up overall for the 18 to 25-year-olds, that's being driven by a significant increase among the 21 to 25-year-olds. Now, there's two things happening. Significant increase among the 21 to 25-year-olds, significant decrease in the 18 to 20-year-olds, and it's essentially washed out that increasing linear trend. Far outside the scope of what I can do today, at some point we could see if there's any curvilinear outcome, and we would never just draw like a fake line between these. But in general, if you can imagine that overall category, for the first time, we're now saying there has not been over the 12-year window a significant trend over time. Clearly, that doesn't tell the whole story, and when you do a deeper dive by age, you see what happens. Now, when we move to I lost my screen. That's why I'm afraid of Teams.
We can still see your screen.
I'm going to move all of you. Oops, I don't know what happened there. I'm going to move all of you off of my screen and keep moving forward. So I've lost you and I've lost the ability to see people's hands. So Jim, I appreciate that you're letting me know if someone has their hand up.
Okay.
At least monthly non-medical use, you see the cohorts 5 through 9 and cohort 11 all are significantly higher from a statistical standpoint than cohort 1. I'm going to do this quickly because you're going to see a very consistent theme emerge. The at least monthly, the overall rate, the overall trend over time is a significant increasing trend. However, because the age by cohort interaction is significant, when we do a deeper dive, it's the 21 to 25-year-olds driving that. So often in this field, when we look at current behavior, we look at past 30 days, that at least monthly use is going up for 21 to 25-year-olds, no trend over time among 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And if graphically it's helpful to see it, there's the graphic representation of that.
Great, thank you.
At least weekly, 7, 8, and 10 are all significantly higher than cohort 1. You're going to see a consistent theme emerge. Overall, it's going up for 18 to 25-year-olds. There's a newly significant age by cohort interaction such that that's being driven by the 21 to 25-year-olds. Those with legal access to the retail market are the ones driving the significant increasing trend over time. And if it helps, again, see it graphically, there you go. This takes some abstract thinking, and I'm going to hope that you can see my cursor as I hover over this. We literally allow people to say, how often do you personally use? And when we look at if overall category of frequency is changing, if you can see my cursor, imagine that you're, okay, great. So imagine you're seeing a significant increasing trend. If in general frequency shifts like in a descending area, is it moving toward more frequent versus is it moving for less frequent? Cohorts 4 through 10 are all significantly higher odds of more frequent use. And there's a significant increasing trend over time among 18 to 25-year-olds in general, which means that among young adults, the trend is in this direction. The categories are shifting toward more representation in that higher frequency. But if you look at what I've highlighted in magenta, among 18 to 20-year-olds, there's a newly significant decreasing trend. 21 to 25-year-olds, it's still increasing. So what we saw in any past year use, we're also now seeing in these frequencies, such that there is a significant decreasing trend in frequency of use, not just those that use, but frequency of use among the 18 to 20-year-olds. 21 to 25 is still increasing. Of course, among past year use, that overall trend among 18 to 25-year-olds was no longer significant. Here you can see there's still a significant increasing trend. I'll draw your attention to, I feel like when I presented to this group in 2024, there was a lot of focus on the daily use. And, we always thought it was, we never called out one statistic necessarily, but a number of people said daily use seems to be higher than it's been. I'll just show you again, these could not have been more identical in 2014 if they tried. And after retail stores open, when you measure it and split it, you can see that daily use has diverged and actually stayed that way over time. When we look at perceived norms, we ask people, what do you think the typical person your age does? Now, you saw the majority of people do not report use. If I go back to this slide, on the one hand, 58.95%, since they never use, that holds with the 41.05% that report use. So when we ask people, what do you think the typical person your age does? The right answer should be, the typical person my age doesn't use. It's always been about 2 to 4% that get that right. We see that people have a pronounced misperception, including, as you can see, especially in recent years, double digits of people saying, I think the typical person my age uses daily. Why that's so noteworthy is research since the 1980s shows that when people believe everyone uses, they're more likely to initiate use if they want to fit in. They're more likely to continue using themselves and even experience consequences without choosing to change their use if they feel like what they're doing is what everyone does. So cohort 2 had slower perceived norms than cohort 1, but 4 through 12 all had higher perceived norms. Plus, there's a significant increasing trend. We continue to hear the narrative that, quote, everyone uses when that's not the case. And just to even give you a specific example, in cohort 12, 17% use at least weekly, meaning most, 83%, don't. However, 62% think the typical person their age uses weekly or more often. So there's more we can do with correcting misperceived norms. This slide, I wore a shirt to match this out, the slide today. Dress for the slides. There's a lot going on, but it makes a lot more sense if I just show you the colors. This is 18, 19, 20-year-olds with past 30-day cannabis use, and we ask them, where do you get it? Check all that apply. There's been a significant decreasing trend in getting it from friends, getting it from some of the medical card, getting it from a dispensary, getting it at a party, getting it some other way. We've seen an increase in giving money to someone to get it for them, Getting it from parents with their permission. That has moved to fourth most mentioned after 2 years as third most mentioned, but it's still in the double digits of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds saying they're getting it from a parent, caregiver, or guardian with that person's permission. We've also seen an increase in reporting stealing it. Among 21 to 25-year-olds, almost every source is declining, including if you go all the way to the right, we had no endorsement at all of people growing it themselves. So that is a newly significant decreasing trend. The one increasing trend continues to be buying it from a retail store. I'll get us over the finish line quickly here by just drawing your attention to driving. We had asked in the very first year how often among those that had used it the past 30 days, they'd also driven within 3 hours of use. We picked that window because I-502 had written into it a per se limit of 5 nanograms of THC per milliliter of blood, and Grotenherman and colleagues was the only published study at the time that said it'll likely take people with the potency of that time 3 hours to drop below that level. Obviously, recommendations are waiting much longer now. I remember when we shared the data from year one, there was a sense of, it was uncomfortable that half of 18 to 25-year-olds that reported past 30-day cannabis use also reported driving within 3 hours of use. Fortunately, cohorts 3 through 12, there are declines in driving after use between cohorts 3 through 12 and cohort 1, and there's a significant decreasing linear trend. When you look at Washington Traffic Safety Commission data, we obviously still have some work to do. About 30% in cohort 12 of young adults that reported past 30-day use also reported driving within 3 hours of use. Medical cannabis is going down over time. We see overall 18 to 25-year-olds, a significant decreasing trend, plus cohorts 9, 11, and 12 are lower than cohort 1. There is no significant age by cohort interaction. In general, for 18 to 25-year-olds, that's going down. And that's packaged, though, with perceptions of use continuing to increase significantly, both a positive linear trend over time, as well as cohorts 4 through 11 being higher than cohort 1. When people say, what are you seeing with other substances? Everything else is going down. We see significant decreasing trends in alcohol, at least once in the past year, alcohol at least monthly, cigarettes at least once in the past year, pain relievers to get high at least once in the past year, heroin use at least once in the past year. So I'll end with this. What we think is interesting. If we go back in time to spring 2019, I showed you this slide that also seemingly matches my shirt, where we kept hearing the narrative. It's just weed, it's natural, it's safer than alcohol. And our data were supporting that perception because young adults, we saw a significant decreasing linear trend in basically every possible measure of perceived risk of use. But alcohol, everything was going up. Look at this. So this year, we continue to now see not only was perceived harm going down, it actually course corrected. I'll go out of order just to show you this slide. The percentage endorsing moderate or great risk with physical harms or risks, psychological, emotional, or cognitive. It had been going down, and it actually has pivoted and is now going up. So we see now a newly significant increasing trend in the perceived physical risk of using occasionally. We see a continued increasing trend in perceived physical and psychological, emotional, or cognitive risk of regular use. We thought we'd hit a ceiling effect on this bottom variable with alcohol. We didn't hit a ceiling effect. Stunningly, that actually is newly significant, that there's a significant increasing linear trend in the psychological risk of 5 more drinks every weekend. So what do we think is going on? Yeah. Last year, I showed you this, that the Monitoring the Future study had shown that in 30 years of national data, every year the perceived risk went down, the very next year actual use went up. And every year that perceived risk went up, the very next year use went down. They concluded this clear and consistent concordance in trend supports our contention that changes in beliefs about the harmfulness of marijuana use played a critical role in causing both the downturn and the subsequent upturn in use. In both cases, the reversal in perceived risk preceded the reversal in actual use by a year. We saw this year an increase in risk, and what did we also see 30 slides ago? Use is going down. And so that's, again, we don't want to put a spotlight on any one year, but the fact that the overall increasing trend, in essence, has washed out is noteworthy. And we want to see how that continues to hold and hang with perceived risk. I did want to leave at least 5 minutes for questions, so just letting you know, we've We've next year we'll see our 13th year of data collection. We've submitted our data report to DBHR with comparisons across all 12 cohorts, a longitudinal data report for cohorts 1, 2, 6, and 11, as well as a frequency report. And we're disseminating, as I'm doing today, to key partners and collaborators as we go. So we've got 5 minutes for question and discussion. I will stop sharing my screen, and I'm happy to take whatever questions or comments folks have.
Great, thank you so much. I see Board Member Holmes' hand raised, so Board Member Holmes, I'll let you go ahead.
Real quickly, what are the reports that have analogous targeting on the alcohol side? The age cohorts, the time period, and the like. Is there any ability to do apples to apples comparison?
I'm not sure. I mean, we have all of that. We have the exact same data, obviously in a 30-minute window. I chose to summarize the alcohol findings just on that kind of list of points. But we have similar graphs and tables for alcohol as well, for all the substances we collect data on.
Okay.
We don't have data over 12 years for vaping because if you go back to 2014, that was not actually necessarily accessible or that prevalent. And so we've added vaping items, we've added a number of substances over the years.
Just thinking about all of our regulated industries and what the trends might be.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So it sounds like you can reach out to Dr. Kilmer for more information on that, and he can provide that. Jason, I had a question about, and I may have asked this in a previous presentation of yours, but just do other states have this same data set, or is this unique to Washington State given the healthcare authority's support for this kind of data collection? Like, can we compare this to other states?
The only other state that I know that was doing a young adult health survey for a while was Vermont. The fact that even large national studies paused during the pandemic, and we didn't pause, we kept collecting data. I think that this extended run over 12 consecutive years is pretty unique, especially with this focus on 18 to 25-year-olds. Certainly if there are other states doing it that I'm unaware of, my apologies to those states. But I do know that there was a young adult health survey in Vermont for a while, for sure.
Okay. And then going back to the perception of frequency of use, and what are the opportunities there for states given that perception? I mean, like, what should we do? I mean, obviously correcting, and I've seen actually, I think, public signs that say something related to, hey, did you know that most kids don't actually use, or something like, what are the opportunities there given that data?
I mean, you're highlighting one of them, which is social norms, mass marketing. Many use Lincoln-Bach's positive community norms approach. And what you've likely seen, Mike Graham Squire and his team at Neighborhood House in King County have actually launched a Most Steer Clear campaign to show that most young adults aren't using cannabis. Most young adults aren't driving after use. And, there's an opportunity like that. They actually use data from our Young Adult Health Survey in aggregate form with permission from the Healthcare Authority, of course. But they've been able to put that, when you think about the opportunity to correct misperceived norms, it can actually impact the behavior of the individual, but it can also impact the behavior of bystanders. If someone says, oh, don't worry, I drive better when I'm high, or everyone does this, if someone realizes most don't, they might be more likely to say, you know what, why don't I get your keys? Or why don't we get you a ride share today? Or anything like that. So I think that there's research around the use of personalized normative feedback. My colleague, Dr. Christine Lee, has the Check In With Yourself program, also funded by the Healthcare Authority, which is for 18 to 29-year-olds in Washington. It's free. People fill out a very brief survey about their mood, their connectedness, their optimism, their coping, their use or non-use of alcohol and cannabis, and they get personalized feedback, including norms about that. So norms are another great way. Personalized normative feedback is another great way to do that.
Great, thank you. Final question that I have, and that's related to high THC concentration products. And I don't know that we've really talked much about that today, but is that part of the questions that you guys ask, or just any general comments on the potency of cannabis over time?
I feel like I couldn't have planted a better question. I do want to go on the record and say I didn't plant that question. We added for the first time this year, we've always asked people to estimate THC potency. But one of the things we were able to do for the first time is include a toggle. Because if there were people, you can see that we have always asked about your preferred method of use. And so when people were reporting largely use of edibles or infused drinks, having them estimate percentage felt less accurate. And so this year we piped in, you said your preferred method was blank. And what was piped in here was whatever their answer was to this slide. And it allowed us then to have them toggle between percentage in THC in percentage or in milligrams. This is the percentage. You see that very low reports of what's considered, lower potency use, 1 to 10%. It was 4% of all the 18 and 25-year-olds. We've seen the percentage reporting that they don't know really go down. People are reporting a lot more knowledge about this. But you can see that it's interesting because this certainly holds with people's reported method of use. You can see that it's about 37% if you add these two that report 11 to 30. You can see that it's also about 36% that report 71 to 90 plus. So there's very much a bimodal distribution of a lot reporting 30% and less, a lot reporting 70% and higher. When we look at milligrams, if I go to the next slide, the overwhelming majority report milligrams that are pretty low. This is where you see a lot of people that don't know. But I will include this in the PDF that I send. I'll send it to Gretchen. Gretchen, thanks again for all of your behind the scenes work. But I'll send these since I shared them so you have those for your notes as well.
Great. All right. Member Holmes, I see. Go ahead.
Just one quick question. Those last couple of slides, does that show that, if percentage THC, say, is analogous to ABV or alcohol by volume, are you saying that people think that they're consuming lower percentage THC than they actually are than when you measure it by milligram? I'm not quite sure I understood what was happening there.
We ask them, so what we do, the specific question is we ask, what is your preferred method of use? And then we say, what is the typical potency of the cannabis in your preferred method for using? We have historically always asked them to report percentages, but that's not, of course, how it's reported in edibles, for example. It's looked at more as milligrams. And so this year, we allowed people to toggle if they were reporting on percentages or if they were reporting on milligrams based on their preferred method of use. And so we really feel like we really boosted the potential meaningfulness of the data we collected there.
Agreed. I agree. Yeah, that would be.
All right. Well, Dr. Kilmer, thank you again for a great presentation, always informative and gives us things to consider as we make policy decisions at the LCB or work with industry. So with that, I think we are done, and again, look forward to having you back here for the next data set in a couple of years.
Thank you for the chance to work with you all. I geek out about this stuff, and if you're like, next year, can you talk for 2 hours? Challenge accepted. So I realize this is a whirlwind, but I appreciate the chance to work with you all and wish you all the best as summer approaches.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. All right, Member Holmes, any thoughts or comments before I move to the final agenda item? Did you learn anything new today? Yeah, just curious as your first exposure to this report.
This is great. There's a lot to digest, and that will yield more questions over time. But thank you for having Dr. Kilmer here, and very much enjoyed it, and look forward to those 2-hour presentations in the future.
Yes, I highly encourage you to reach out to him and have your own conversation with him, because again, he has data sets on alcohol and other drugs as well. So, all right. With that, that concludes our agenda, other than asking for any board member or executive assistant reports. So Board Member Holmes, anything else to add for today's agenda?
Well, first off, this is just a reminder that gardening is not a hazard-free pursuit. I had a laurel hedge that protested being pruned. The other is going to just mention that I'm getting lots of questions and concerns about the new federal executive order, and I just want to acknowledge that, as I know, throughout the agency, we're looking at that, and I just my message to license holders is that I think we're all in this together, and we don't have all the answers yet, but we're working on it.
Great, thank you for that. And I'll just acknowledge as well that the director and I have been talking about our path forward and discussions, who needs to be involved at the state level. He and I are meeting tomorrow morning, and we'll have further discussions, and we'll of course bring that back to the rest of the board for further discussion for next steps.
Thank you.
Yeah, the last thing I'll add is that I was able yesterday to accompany the licensing and the E&E staff and the director for a meeting at Washington State University about their pilot project, in which we allowed alcohol service at sporting events, particularly their football stadium, and had a very productive meeting with them to talk about the path forward, and look forward to bringing that back to this board as I hear more about what they presented some proposed changes to what the original pilot was to address some of the concerns that were raised, and look forward to bringing that back to the board, and will as we learn more. All right, with that, any executive assistant reports from Gretchen or from Deb this morning?
Nothing today, Chair. Thank you.
All right, everybody, thanks very much. That concludes the board caucus meeting, so I'll adjourn the meeting. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.